بزمانك إن شاء الله. TikTok में टेक्निकल अभी सर بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد أما بعد. Jazakallah to everybody for attending, inshallah, our first one we've ever kept. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it, inshallah, and make it a means of khair and barakah, inshallah. Okay, so without wasting any more time, inshallah, get straight into it. The presentation is in regards to our Taraweeh Salah. And it starts from the beginning and it ends at the end, inshallah. So it starts from not just the musalla, it starts from before the musalla. And then it ends on the musalla. Or does it? Or does it carry on after that as well? So that is what we, inshallah, we'd like to discuss over the next course of the program. This is not some motivational talk. This is more practical preparation. This is not just a bayan. This is more specific instructions, specific guide, inshallah. So that will, inshallah, be beneficial for, first of all, myself and along with others as well. Because this Taraweeh Salat, you'll be standing at the front and everybody else will be behind you. And this is not something insignificant, rather this is very, very important and a great role. And with this comes a responsibility and duty. And that is what we need to understand. Today is not about performance. Taraweeh is not about performance. Taraweeh is all about our responsibility and our duty. And inshallah, that is what we'll discuss. So, 3 parts, inshallah, to our program. The very first being preparation. Second being performance. And the third being our responsibility and our duty, inshallah. So, moving on, preparation. Preparation for Taraweeh Salat. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has mentioned at-tuhuru shatrul iman, that cleanliness is half of faith. We all know this hadith. At-tuhur shatrul iman. Cleanliness is half of faith. And the ulama mentioned that faith here can also mean salat. So it's half of salat, cleanliness. And tahara, purity. Purity is half of iman, purity is half of faith. Now what does it mean by purity? So there are 2 aspects to purity. One is our internal purity, and one is our outer and external purity. And tahara is necessary for both. And it is the both aspects which then have an impact and an effect upon our salat and upon our faith and our iman. Inner tahara and outer tahara. That is what we need to understand. Inner tahara and outer tahara. What does it mean by inner tahara? G. Anybody? What does it mean by inner tahara? Come on, let's keep it engaging, interactive, inshallah. Otherwise, you'll fall asleep. And I don't want you to fall asleep. I want you to go away with something. Gee, what is meant by inner tahara? Anybody? Clean yourself properly. Nope, that's external tahara. Gee, Yahya. Huh? Tazkiyah, what does that mean? Purification of the heart. Okay, anything else? Anybody? No? Chalo. Inshallah. So, there's two things. Hafiz have said what? Two things. Okay? Let's see if this works. This ain't working. Let me sit down. This isn't working today. G. It's not happy. Two parts to inner tahara. Number one is niyyah. And number two is avoiding sin. Two things. Niyyah and avoiding sin. What does it mean, niyyah? Niyyah means ikhlas, sincerity. When we do something, we're doing it for who? We're doing it for Allah. This is not a stage. This is not a stage. We're not here so that we can rip these mics apart and we can think that we're in the haram. And people come to us after saying, mashallah. You only did 4 rakats, you should have done 20 rakats. And then you think, subhanallah, if only, yes, I'm going to do 20 tomorrow. And you tell us, he's telling me to do 20. No. Or if somebody, you read so good today, you read so good, and you were on fire, you were doing up, down, everything. And after salat, you woke him back and nobody says anything. Nobody's come up to you and give you a pat on the back. I said, you didn't get even any mistakes. You're on fire today. And nobody says anything. And you go home and you come to your mum and your mum doesn't even say anything. And your dad doesn't even say anything. And then somebody might just say, slow pa yo. That deflates your ego completely. And you are going out with, you couldn't hardly fit through that door. That's how you had, gone big. No. Ikhlas. We're doing it for who? Allah. Allah alone. That's it. That's it. Nobody else. Number one. We're doing it only for Allah. And number two is abstaining from all types of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All types of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only in the month of Ramadan, but outside the month of Ramadan as well. Because we need to understand that our sins have an effect on our Quran. Our sins have an effect on our recitation. Sayyidina Uthman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu would say that لَوْ تَهُرَتْ قُلُوبُنَا مَا شَبِعْتَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. That if our hearts were pure, then we would never ever be content with the Quran. We always want more and more and more and more. So avoiding all types of sin. And it's this tongue that we will be reciting our Quran with. And with this very tongue throughout the day we're doing ghibat. With this very tongue we're lying. With this very tongue we're swearing. We're slandering people. We're saying rude things. This is, and that with very tongue then we lead the people in salat. This is not acceptable. This is not good. So it's very important that we stay away from the Quran. Away from all types of sin. Otherwise, if our heart becomes corrupt, then the Quran will be difficult and heavy on our tongues. So that's inner tahara. Second bit was outer tahara. What does outer tahara mean? Hafizab? Cleanliness. Cleanliness. So, in terms of cleanliness, I want to mention two things. Number one is istinja. Very, very important. Istinja is extremely important. We need to understand that we're very careful that we don't make any mistakes on the musalla. Why? Because that will affect the Taraweeh. If we make a certain mistake, it may even invalidate the salat, and it will have an effect on the validity of our salat. But we need to understand that our outer tahara has a greater effect and importance in terms of the validity of our salat. If we don't do istinja properly, then our salat will be invalid. So that's why it's very, very important that we are very particular in istinja. And in regards to istinja, particularly, I want to mention regarding istibra. Istibra, what is istibra? Istibra is ensuring that no drops of urine remain. After relieving oneself, no drops of urine remain. Because what happens is, you do istinja, and after that you wash yourself. After washing yourself, you just carry on, and you do wudu. After doing wudu, then you're walking around and wherever, you come to namaz, and sometimes you might go into ruku, go into sajda, etc. But because you haven't relieved yourself properly, cleaned yourself properly, and ensure that no drop remains, then what may happen is, whilst you are moving, that drop comes out. That drop comes out, your wudu is invalid, you don't know, and you're there performing your salat. So your own salat. But here, in Taraweeh, you're leading, so it's not just your salat. It's a salat of everybody, the entire congregation. So it's very, very important that we ensure that we do istibra properly. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was once passing, marra bi qabarayn. He passed by two graves, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّهُمَا لَيُعَذَّبَانِ وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ بَلَا إِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرٌ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that these two individuals are being punished. And they're not being punished for any great thing that they done. It wasn't something which was very hard and difficult to refrain from. But in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was indeed very, very severe. And what were these two things? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أَمَّا هَذَا فَكَانَ لَا يَسْتَتِرُ وَلَا يَسْتَنْزِهُ مِنَ الْبَوْلِ. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam regarding the other person, that أَمَّا هَذَا فَكَانَ يَمْشِي بِالنَّمِيمَةِ. That this person, he was not particular in regards to the drops of urine. He was not particular in regards to the drops of urine, because of which he's being punished. And the second person, he used to gossip a lot, and he used to carry tales and cause friction between two individuals. That this person saying this person saying this about you. So because of that, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says this person is being punished in the grave. So it is very important that we do istibra properly. And for that, what should we do? We should, number one, do after our istinja, extremely important that we use tissue paper, and wrap the tissue around your private parts, and don't do wudu until a few minutes after. Go to the toilet, relieve yourself, wrap a tissue paper, thereafter carry on as usual. So for example, you want to, after iftar you go home, you eat, and quickly, as soon as you've eaten, go to the toilet, relieve yourself, wrap a tissue, thereafter carry on, and just wait for a few moments, and come to the masjid. That's a walk. And then after that, thereafter remove the tissue paper. You don't need to wash anything again, just remove the tissue paper, and then perform wudu. So in that way, inshallah, you'll have that peace of mind that if there are any drops, then they would have come out of your system and gone. And therefore it won't have an effect upon your wudu and your taharat after. So that's number one. Number two is regarding wudu. Regarding wudu, it's very important that we perform our wudu properly, slowly, properly. If we leave any part of our limbs dry, then our wudu is not valid. If our wudu is not valid, our salat is not going to be valid. And if an individual salat is not valid, then that's him and Allah. Here we've got the responsibility of 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, depending on where you're leading. We've got so many people behind us. So the responsibility is greater. So it's very, very important that we ensure that we do our wudu properly. Especially washing our arms. This bit, the back part, the bottom of the forearm, and your elbows generally stay dry. The eye wells generally stay dry. It's very important that we do that. Near the sideburns, that generally stays dry. Your heels, that generally stays dry. So it's very, very important that we do wudu properly. In terms of the basic faraid is a must. And besides that, we should try to do a complete full wudu. That will have an effect upon our salat as well. And within our wudu, let us also try to use a miswak. If you use a miswak, this will multiply the reward which we will gain for our salat, and therefore multiply the reward for the congregation for their salat as well. So try to use a miswak also when we are performing our wudu. So we need to be not just, I think my wudu is done. No, we need to be beyond our doubt. Like, no, my wudu is definitely done. That doesn't mean you set half an hour under the towel and make sure, that was just, but just make sure that we don't rush our wudu, so that we've got that maybe point. No, do it calmly, properly. Other aspects of taharat which I also like to very quickly mention is general hygiene. General hygiene is very, very important, okay? And dressing in a proper manner, very, very important, okay? We're going to stand on that musalla, okay? And when we stand on that musalla and we've got 50 people, 100 people behind us, or we get in the stage, we're going to start sweating, okay? And we start sweating, and obviously it's not going to smell nice. So we be prepared. So, hygiene is important. You understand? Put on some nice itar. Okay, if you need to use antiperspirant, use some antiperspirant. You understand? So just so that we know that we're not going to inconvenience other people. That's general hygiene. Along with this, we've got, removing our unwanted hair regularly. This is something which we should be doing anyway. And this is something which we need to be more particular as well during our leading in Taraweeh, Salat, etc. And similarly is dressing smart, neat, smart clothing. Standing on the musalla with a hoodie, it's not appropriate. You understand? Dress smartly. Dress appropriately. Look the part. You understand? That we look like somebody who's leading. So we look like the imam, and we look like somebody who has a bit of a role and a bit of a position in the congregation. But regarding this, I'd like to mention one part, which is isbal. Well, who knows what isbal is? It's an Arabic word, isbal. Any of those students are in studying or anything? Ji? There are some people in third year, fourth year, reading Mishkat now, mashallah. Ji? Isbal? Come on. Baba? No? Tawadu. Ji, isbal is to have your garment lower than the ankle. That's isbal. This is something which is sinful. Makruh tahreem. So much so that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw an individual performing his salat and his garment was below the ankle. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, go and perform your salat again, your salat is not done. Although, from a fiqhi perspective, the salat will be done. But to drill the fact that is very, very important, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that pray your namaz again. How dare you lower your garment below the ankle and perform salat? Generally, you shouldn't be even having your ankle below your garment below the ankle. And let's remember that garment doesn't just mean your trousers below your ankle. Anything which comes top down should not be below your ankle. So a lot of people, especially I've seen, I always mention as well to the Huffaz that lead here as well, that your jabba needs to be above the ankles. Above the ankles. A lot of people have their jabbas and they have the long jabbas. No, this is completely unacceptable, and a person should ensure that their jabba is above the ankle, not only their trousers above the ankle. And keep it, as I said, beyond doubt. Okay, as an imam, not just, it is, not just the borderline and, just the boundary of being valid. No, we need to be above and beyond suspicion and doubt. So keep it at least a good inch or so above the ankle. Sunnah is between the halfway, between the ankles and the knees. Anyway, that's a sunnah, between the shins, halfway of the shins. If you can't go up to that level, in abayta فلا حق للإزار تحت العقب. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that لا حق للإزار, that if you really want to lower it, then that's fine, but not below your ankles. Not below your ankles. So that is something which we need to ensure, especially when we are leading salat. Okay, that's the first part done. One thing I would also like to mention very quickly, before I move on, is ideally keep separate clothing for the Taraweeh Salat. Keep separate clothing. As I said, we need to be beyond doubt and suspicion. So we have our clothing, whatever, go istinja, whatever, but thereafter, once you've done our istinja and everything, change everything, top to bottom, everything. Change it fully. And then, once you finish your Taraweeh, put it away. Once you finish your Taraweeh, put that away now, and don't wear that during the course of the day and go. Ideally, if you can, to be beyond. But if you don't want to, then that's fine as well. But you still need to be very, very, very careful in regards to your taharat. Okay, that's part one done, which was preparation. Number two, performance. There's two aspects to performance. Number one is correcting our salat, and number two is the performance of our actual Taraweeh salat. So one is the general salah and one is Taraweeh salah. So regarding the general salah, there's three things which I want to highlight. Few important points, a few common errors, and sajdat sahw. And I think I might have added one more slide after that. But these are the main things in regards to our own salat. In regards to our own salat, few important points is that salat is the second pillar of Islam. Taraweeh is sunnah. There are other 5 salat which are fard. And we need to be punctual with our 5 salat. We need to be punctual with our 5 salat. If you're not punctual with our 5 salat, then we have no right whatsoever to lead anybody in Taraweeh salat. Simple. Very simple. If we are not punctual with our 5 salat, we should not be on that musalla leading anybody else in any Taraweeh salat. We need to be punctual with our 5 salat. And with Jama'at ideally, and if not with Jama'at, then at least on time. Qada or disregarding it altogether, that is something which, as a believer, it is something which is incomprehensible. You can't just imagine it. Rasulullah says that this is the borderline between kufr and Islam. If a person is not punctual with his salat, then Rasulullah says, certainly I says, "Man taraka as-salata muta'ammidan faqad kafar." He's turned into a disbeliever, and according to some fuqaha, an individual will become kafir if a person misses his salat. Although other fuqaha have interpreted differently, but the importance of salat is very, very paramount, and we need to ensure that we do not slack in our punctuality in salat. Number one. Number two, try to improve our salat as much as possible. That khushu should be there. That concentration should be there. And it's not just a tick box exercise, and where we come in namaz and we're just daydreaming and we're just in autopilot. No. We need to have that concentration, have that focus, and perform our salat according to the sunnah. Fully. Not just, I'm doing my farz, I'm doing my wajibat, yes, that's it. No. According to the sunnah, our salat should be performed. Keep trying. Okay. I've tried it. So, in terms of, according to sunnah, we don't have the time to go into a practical demonstration, and ideally we should, but it is already 8 o'clock, and I don't want to prolong our presentation for longer than necessary. So I'd just like to mention a few common errors in salah, and this is generic, as I said, not whilst we're leading, just general things which we need to be mindful of when we are performing our salat. Okay, number one. Number one is our position of our feet. Okay. So our position of feet is that our feet should be straight, facing the Qibla, directly straight. Not like this. A lot of people stand like this in Salat. 10 past 10, as you say. Listen. No, you don't stand at 10 past 10. You need to stand straight, directly. Okay? And stand in a way which is comfortable for yourself. So they say, not too wide like this, because that's not really comfortable. Not too close like this either, close. Okay, comfortably just stand where we are comfortable to stand, and ensuring that our feet are directly facing the Qibla. Okay, as I said, there's many other things in terms of hands and things, but I'm just going to cover the main things. Okay. Second thing is moving the lips. As I said, this is general. A lot of people, they're in namaz. They're not saying anything. They're just imagining Surah Fatiha. They're imagining the surah. They're reciting it in their head. And you see it all the time. I always see it. And you see so many people doing this. If we don't move our lips, and if we are not pronouncing the letters, our qira'ah, whatever words we are reciting, it's not done. If our qira'ah is not done, our salat is not done. We have to recite the words of the salat, of the Quran, and whatever else, at-tahiyyat, or whatever it may be. Reciting the words is a must. Without reciting, if a person just thinks, without moving the lips, then his namaz is invalid, full stop, is not done. We need to remember this. Number 3 is the back in ruku. We need to ensure that it's straight. Okay, we don't do like this, or go too much like this. Keep it straight. Generally, if your arms are straight, your back will generally be. Sometimes you might need to slightly tilt your elbows, but generally if you just keep it straight, it's fine. Going into sujood, a mistake is the way we go into sujood. So there's two things here. One is the back, and one is in terms of the limbs which go onto the ground. So a lot of people, when they go into sujood, we all know that first goes down what? The knees, thereafter the hands, thereafter the nose, and thereafter the head and the forehead. Okay, so a lot of people obviously go and do this or whatever. Okay, that's fine. But a lot of people put the knees first, etc. But what is missed out is that they don't keep their back straight when they're going down. A lot of people, they go down like this. So we need to remember that when you're going into sajda, our back needs to be straight, and we go down like this. And then our knees. We need to ensure that when we're going into sujood, we don't tilt forward, we just move our knees and come down. And then go down into sujood. Feet in sajda. This is a very, 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 very common thing. We just sit however we want to. Some people sit like this. Some people sit like this. We need to ensure that our right foot is up with the toes facing the Qibla, and we're seated on our left foot like this. That is how we need to. So a lot of people sit like this, or just put one foot on top of each other. That is something which we need to ensure that we do not do. And we try, as I said, this is what we should be doing on a daily basis, and especially when we are leading, then we need to lead according to the sunnah. The more we do, the better that our salat will be, and the better effect it will have in terms of spirituality and reward, not only for ourselves because we're leading, then on our congregation as well. And that was sitting in qaida. Feet in sajda. Feet in sajda, is that a lot of people float their feet in sajda. Or they'll go down, when they go down in the first sajda, then they'll keep their feet on the floor, then they'll sit down like this. So So now one foot is on top of the other foot. And then you'll go into the second sajda, like this. And they keep their feet as they were before. So, what we need to remember is if our feet, both our feet, in terms of the toes, are not touching the floor for a duration of 3 subhanallahs, then our sajda will not be valid. And if our sajda is not valid, then that's the first missing of our salat. Therefore, our salat will be invalid as well. So we need to ensure that our feet are on the floor properly during our sujood. Is that clear? Okay. Sajdatul sahwa. Sajdatul sahwa. Sahwa means forgetfulness. So if a person forgets, makes a mistake, then he needs to perform sajda sahwa. If you get a mistake, don't worry. It's not the end of the world. Don't panic. You stop panicking, come down, going up. Then everybody else behind you won't know what you're doing, and they'll get confused. Just be calm, do whatever you think, and if you got a mistake, it's fine. You've got this to make it up. That's what you need to understand. So if you're like, oh, I'm in first rakah, and you're like, Allah, 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 don't do any of that. Just do something, get up, go down, whatever it is. If you got a mistake, you'll get corrected, and you can make it up at the end by doing your sajdatul sahwa. Obviously, sajdatul sahwa is if you miss a wajib, or if you're performing a wajib earlier or later than you're supposed to, or if you are repeating a wajib or changing a wajib, then sajdatul sahwa. But what are the wajibs? We don't have the time to go into the full fiqhi details of all of this, otherwise it'll be a bit tiresome for yourself as well. So certain things you're going to have to do a bit of your own understanding and a bit of reading, find out what the wajibats are, and accordingly just be careful of this. For example, reading the Surah Fatiha first and then a surah, that is a wajib. So if a person reads the surah first and misses out Surah Fatiha, then he's missed the wajib because he's gone against the order. So then he'll come back to the surah, so now he'll have to he'll come back to Surah Fatiha, so then he'll have to do sajda sahwa. This is just an example. Okay? So we need to be particular about that as well. Okay. So I'm just going to mention the method of sajdatul sahwa. Method of sajdatul sahwa is what we generally all know, but just as a reminder, we recite tashahhud. So in the last rakat, we recite tashahhud. After tashahhud, we do one salam, and thereafter we go into sajda, do 2 sajdas, and thereafter we sit back up, and then we finish our salat as usual, repeat tashahhud, then durood, and then dua after durood, and then finish our salat as usual. And this is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, look, insan, we forget things, we make mistakes, so Allah says, don't worry, if shaitan comes to you and he makes you forget things in salat, then you can disgrace him and humiliate him by saying, you're making me forget things in salat, and you want to make my namaz invalid, but I've got this sahwa in which I'll perform 2 extra sujood and get reward for the 2 extra sujood, so you've failed and my namaz will be valid as well. Okay, a few common errors of sajda sahwa is I'm going to mention. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the full detail, as I said, of all the wajibats, all the different scenarios. But few common things which people do make mistakes in regards to their salat, and due to which sajda sahwa becomes necessary. Number 1 is number of rak'ah. Number of rak'ah. We sometimes forget which rakat we're on. Okay, sometimes we forget which rakat we're on. Are we in first rakat? Are we in second rakat? Is it my third? Is it my fourth? Is it my second? Is it my third? I don't know. It happens. It happens a lot. Okay? So what's the ruling in regards to this? The ruling is that try to come to a conclusion. Think. What was I reading in my first rakat? Okay. What was I reading in my second rakat? I don't know. So that means I've only done 1 rakat. I think this is my second rakat now. You can kind of come to a conclusion like that. So try to think and try to identify which rakat you're on. You've thought really hard, but you've still not come to a conclusion. Now what do you do? So now the method is that take the least number. So for example, is it my second rakat or is it my third rakat? I don't know. So now what do? We treat this as our second rakat. Because we treat it as our second rakat, what shall we do? After this rakat, we'll sit down or we'll stand up? We'll sit down. Now we stood up, and what rakat is it? Chalo, bolo na, what rakat is it? Third rakat. But we were confused whether it's our second, whether it's our third. So we stood up now in our third rakat, but there's still that possibility that it could be fourth rakat. Because it could be fourth rakat, therefore we need to sit down again. We'll sit down again. And then we think that it's our third rakat, so we're going to stand up for our fourth rakat. And then after our fourth rakat, we sit down again. So we'll be sitting on the second, but we'll be sitting on our third as well, because we think that it could be our fourth. And then we'll sit down on our fourth because we sit down on our fourth anyway. And because we sat down on our third, and it's possible that we never had to sit down, so we'll do Sajdatul Sahwa at the end. Is that understood? Any questions? Okay, that's number one. Number two, regarding standing and sitting. What happens is sometimes we think it's our first rakat and we start standing up, and then we realize it's my second rakat, so we sit down. Or do we sit down? Understand? Or we think that it's our third rakat or something, and we're standing up and we were supposed to sit down, or whatever it may be. We get that mixed up, whether we're supposed to be standing up, we sit down, or we're supposed to be sitting down and stand up. What do we do in regards to this? So the ruling is very, very, very important that we understand this, that if we were supposed to be seated, but we're standing up, okay? So we were supposed to sit down. We sit down in what? Second rakat and fourth rakat, unless it's Maghrib, then third rakat. So we're supposed to be sitting down. But instead of sitting down, we started to stand up. So I'm standing up, and then I realize that I'm supposed to be. Obviously, if we stand up and then we carry on and then we don't realize whatever, and then that's different. That's the number of rakats we've gone up. But here we've realized. So we're standing up, and then I realized I was supposed to be sitting down. So what happens in regards to this? So the ruling is that if you're closer to sitting than standing, then sit down. And that means that if your thigh is joined with your calf, then that means you're closer to sitting than you are to standing. If your thigh separates from your calf, now I'm closer to standing than I am to sitting. So if I remember at this point, so I'm saying, Allahu Akbar. Yeah, sit down. Because I was closer to sitting. Yeah. Or, I remember at this time now, I'm closer to standing. Allah. Now what do I do? So I'm closer to standing, so stand up. Stand up. Okay? Unless, obviously, it's your second. If it's not qaida al-khilaf, if it's not your last rakat. If it's your last rakat, then sit down. If it's your last rakat, then you have to sit down. Okay? So, if you're closer to, if it's your, as I said, I'm talking generically in salat. So, if it's your second rakat of a 4 rakat salat and that happens, then just stand up, carry on your salat and thinking. Obviously in Taraweeh it's only going to be 2 rakats. So in every situation we're going to have to sit down. But the difference is what now? That if you're closer to sitting and we've just sat down, then there will be no sajdatul sahwa. There will be no sajdatul sahwa. But if we were closer to standing and then we realized and we sat down, now we will have to do sajdatul sahwa. Is that understood? Yeah? Any question in regards to that? Okay. That's fine. What happens if your wuzu breaks in salat? Could happen. Huh? Jump out the window, get everybody in sajda and then walk out and you just leave everybody there. You've got two options. One option is that, well, first thing is don't panic because you know what you're going to do. So, there's one person, he broke his wuzu in sajda. And he's in sajda and he broke his wuzu. And he's like, oh no, what do I do? And he panicked. So he stood up. He didn't say anything, he just stood up. And he's like, and everybody's in sajda. And everybody's still in sajda, still in sajda, still in sajda, and then somebody thinks, you know what, I should look. So he's in sajda, he goes like this. And then goes back into sajda, and then whilst he's in sajda, he goes, Imam sahab to ubar hai gaya. So everybody gets up. I said, what's happening? I said, look, I broke my wuzu. Don't panic, okay? If you break your wudu, one option is, you're here, okay? One option is that you got Hifz behind you. You just tell Hifz, just indicate like this without saying anything. Just move to the side, indicate. Hifz takes on over, you carry on, and you go do your wuzu, and Hifz will carry on your namaz, and he's you got your 2 rakah. Just make sure you do it yusikumullah. Yep. Number one. That's one. The other thing is that just break your namaz. Just either say salam or just because salam will break your namaz anyway. So your wuzu breaks, your namaz is broken. But you're just saying salam just so that everybody else knows that your namaz is broken. Otherwise your namaz is broken anyway. You understand? So just say salam and everyone will be like, why? And then you say, wuzu to you. And then they'll start your namaz or they'll wait for you or whatever, because obviously if you've got a small little place and you're alright, they'll go, do wuzu and come back. If you've got a big masjid and blah, 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 so someone might get up and take your place, whatever. Okay? But you've got your 2 options, either or. You've got your situation there. But, as I said, don't panic. Just go with the flow, inshallah. Okay, that's general salat, targheeb and whatever else it was, masail, etc. Moving on to Taraweeh salat. Taraweeh salat, we've got all this to discuss, inshallah. 6 points. You've got 6 points. Number 1, big number. Number 2, Isha salat, distribution, preparation, recitation, and mistakes. Okay, big number we all know, 20. Nothing else, move on. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to go into any details. If you've got any questions, see me after. Move on. G. Isha salat. This is very, 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 very important. A lot of people do Taraweeh salats everywhere. We do Taraweeh salats in our homes. We do Taraweeh salats in, in a community center, Taraweeh salat in the garage, wherever it may be. Okay? We need to understand Isha salat is different. Taraweeh salat is different. Isha salat has to be performed with jama'ah. Yes? And what does that mean? Jama'ah means in a place where jama'ah usually takes place. If I say, oh, I'm going to pray, do you pray salah with jama'ah? Yeah, I do jama'ah at home every day. So today, for example, I'm praying my salah with jama'ah. You need to perform salah with jama'ah because 27 times more rewarding. So you do jama'ah at home every day with your kids and your wife and whoever. Then who's going to come to the masjid? So when it says that you need to perform your salah with jama'ah, that means that you perform your salah with jama'ah means that at a place where jama'ah usually takes place. Whether it's a masjid, whether it's a musalla. So whether it's al-hidayah, whether it's jamia, whatever. But performing your Isha salat has to be with jama'ah means that it has to be performed where normally Isha and Fajr and Zahar and everything else takes place. That is very, very important. And thereafter, if you need to go perform your Taraweeh salah, then go and perform your Taraweeh salah wherever you wish. So that is very, very important. Otherwise, when you're performing your Isha salat, and wherever, for example, you're performing it in a community center somewhere, then that's, if you're performing your Isha salat there, then you're not getting your full reward for your Isha congregation. That is what is very important and you need to understand. Okay, third point. Third point is rak'ah distribution. Rak'ah distribution, number 1 is your rak'ahs don't necessarily need to be equal. In your faraiz salat, your first salat, they should be very, very similar. Okay? In Taraweeh salat, they don't really need to be equal. Okay? And we need to make it such that we distribute our salat according to our rak'ats according to topics. Okay? Does anybody know how many rukus there are in the Quran? Anybody? Nobody? Nobody? 540. How many? 540. Okay? Let me tell you something. 540 rukus in salat, in the Quran. Okay? If a person prays one ruku in every rak'ah, or ruku is identical in size. Sometimes one ruku is small, one ruku is long. And it's not like every odd is longer than every even. Sometimes the odd will be short and the even will be longer. If you're doing one ruku in every rak'ah, then the first rak'ah is always going to be a odd ruku. And your second rak'ah is going to be a even ruku. 540 rukus in the Quran. If a person, every rak'ah, reads one ruku in the Taraweeh salat, then he will finish the last Surah An-Nas on the 27th night. That's why there are that many rukus. The point is, split it according to topics. Don't worry about short, long, etc. Because people are listening to the Quran and understand the Quran. Now you reading the portion of the Quran, and you reading the story of Khadir and Musa alayhi salam, and you come right to the end and you recite حتى إذا أتيا غلاما فقتلا قال قتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا الله أكبر, and then tomorrow we'll carry on. He just killed somebody. Khadir said, you've done very wrong. No, Khadir hasn't even replied to him. He just killed him and he just leave him, and then Khadir replies to him tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. Finish according to topics. Carry on a little bit if you have to. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna harm. So make sure you go according to topics. I with my group in Masjid and Al-Hidayah, with our group here, we've got actual distribution for the full Taraweeh, and according to whether you finish on the 27th night. So if you're doing 1 1/4 every day until 20th, and then 1 till the end, or if you're doing according to 29th, the Tartib is 8 days, you do 1 1/4 and then 1 1 1 1 1 all the way. Accordingly, we've got it. And then what we do is, you don't need to worry as well. Okay, oh, sit down with the Quran every time. Okay, you take these 5 sides, and then you just do these 4 sides, and then you do. We've got it. I just send it out on the group, as everybody knows. I've got this 5 to 8 is mine rakats, so I've got this to read. Mine are the last from 17 to 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. Then I've got this portion, and they're all split according to the topic, so they'll be all good rukus and sujoods. Thing is, remember your stop. So when you get up, وَلَضَّالِّينَ, remember where you stop, so that you know when you're going to carry on. Okay, remember where you stop and when you're carrying on. The other point is, swap at every 4. Swap at every 4. So either swap at 4, 8, 12, 16. You're not going to stop at 20, Hafsab. It's finished. Taraweeh is over. It's not Taraweeh. You're swapping at every 4. Okay? Either swap at 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay? To swap on the 2s. So if you're swapping on 10, or you're swapping on a 14 or something, or a 6 or something, it's disliked. It's not guna or anything, but it's disliked, and the person should avoid it. Because Taraweeh means you're having a break. Taraweeh means you're having a break. So there shouldn't be a break between whether it's not a Taraweeh. So if a Taraweeh and a break is after every 4. So if you're going to swap between that, then you're going to have a slight break and a gap. No. After that, get up and start. So, for example, there's 3 people praying. So you don't do, one person does 8 and the other do 6, 6. No. No. One person does 8, the other one 8, and then 4. If you've got 2 people praying, then generally you'll do 10-10. Generally you'll do 10-10, but no. Do 8 and 12. Okay? So if you can do it like this, then ideally do it like this. Okay. Preparation. Preparation, learn the entire portion. Not just your part. Not just your quarter. Not just your whatever you've got. Try to learn the entire portion of the Quran. Okay, this is your time in the month of Ramadan. This is your opportunity to revise. So try to learn the entire portion, the entire part of the juz which will be recited in the Taraweeh Salat. Okay, yes, if we can't, it's weak, we can't do the whole thing, then concentrate on hours. Okay, or if you can't learn the whole thing, then learn the whole thing, but obviously we always need to give that little bit extra attention to our little portion of the Quran. Okay, have a timetable. I'm going to learn at this time, I'm going to learn at this time, I'm going to learn at this time, this time, this time. I'm going to read it once here, I'm going to read it 2 times here, I'm going to read it once after this time, I'm going to read it. I've got this time is a big time, so I'll read it properly at this time. Before going to sleep, I read it 3-4 times. Set yourself a schedule, timetable, a target, and then accordingly work and utilize every moment. You're going to school, read on your way. You're coming back from school, read on your way. And you're just sitting around waiting, read constantly, on the go. You've got your phones now. You don't even need to always have a Quran with you. You've got your phone, take out your phone and read on your phone. Okay, read on your phone, no problem. And read in Salah. Read in Salah. Reading in Salah is very important because it gives you that confidence as well. And read aloud. Ideally, read aloud. Because you're going to be reading Taraweeh quietly or aloud? Aloud. So if you're practicing Allahu Akbar and reading at a normal, on your own, as you would do in Taraweeh, then it's giving you that mashq and that practice so that when you get here, inshallah, you won't have that problem, inshallah. And pray to somebody. Pray to somebody. And mark your mistakes, go over your mistakes, and make sure you pray to somebody. Otherwise, what will happen? You think you're reading it correctly, then you come here, and then you'll see you're getting a mistake. So it's very important that we go over it, and after going over it, we read to somebody. So if you got any mistake, it can be picked up before we come onto the musalla. Similarly, try to use the time after the Maghrib Salat. In your awwabin, that's a good time. When everybody's rushing, then spend a little bit more time in the masjid, perform your thing to your Taraweeh preparation then, and thereafter go home and have your iftar. Okay, there was going to be a slide about iftar, I forgot all about it, I just remembered now. But I was going to say a few points about iftar as well. Go easy on the food. Yeah, go easy on the food. Some people, you got some people who don't eat at all. Okay, and you've got some people, mashallah, who have no problem in eating. Yep. And they'll come on the musalla. But sometimes having cold drinks, etc., they'll have an effect on your throat. So you just need to be a bit careful about that. So even if you don't have an issue in eating, you still need to be a bit particular of what you eat, how much you eat. So just be careful of that, because sometimes you won't be able to stretch it as much as you'd like to, or it'll have an effect on the throat, and you won't be able to recite whether it's too oily food or greasy or too cold, etc. So you just need to be a bit careful. And obviously, you don't want to inconvenience by burping next to the people that are there, so just be careful about that as well. Okay, reading is very, very important that, look, we read with the correct tajweed. Okay? Sometimes the tajweed mistake can change the entire meaning, and it can invalidate the salat. So we need to ensure that we're reading very clearly, very according to the proper tajweed, and stopping in the right places. Obviously, this is sometimes difficult for one who doesn't understand the Arabic, so then they stop in random places, and it's really funny. Like you've got a mudaf and a mudaf, those that understand. You've got a mudaf and a mudaf ilayh, and then you stop on the mudaf, and you just leave the mudaf ilayh. And it's like, what's going on here? Wanzalna, like, I don't know. Any examples come to mind? No? Anybody? No? I'm also Sifa, you stop him, but I want examples, so we can give him an example. Allah, go? الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي جعلكم that for example, or there's one which is coming into my mind, I just lost it again. But nevertheless, stopping at the right place. If you're not sure, read to somebody who understands it, so that they can say to you, look, don't stop here. When you restart, don't restart from here, restart from here. Because sometimes you restart from you got a mudaf ilayh, and then you're just restarting on the mudaf ilayh and not the full mudaf. So it's like, really kind of like, when you're standing there in Taraweeh and just listen to it, it's like really cringy. I said, come on, you can't do that. It's wrong, you shouldn't be reading like that. So, meaningful pauses. So listen, ideally pray to somebody who understands it as well, so they can tell you, okay, look, you shouldn't be stopping here, you stop here, restart from here, etc. Okay, clear pace. You don't want to go too quick, you don't want to go too slow as well. It needs to be a fine balance. It needs to be a fine balance. I say, look, anything from around the 10-minute mark is fine. Okay? If you're finishing your 4 rakats in 6 minutes, 7 minutes, you're going too quick. If your 4 rakats are taking, 14, 15 minutes, then, it is a bit slow, and, you've got elders in the congregation, you've got to be mindful of them as well. So having around 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes is fine. 1 minute here, there, 2 minutes here, there is fine. But really, really then slowing it down, and just thinking, but I'm Imam Haram today, and that's it. And it comes back again to this right at the beginning, that ikhlas and that sincerity. We're doing it for Allah. It's not a stage here. So just be careful about that as well. Is that clear? Yep. The Quran was revealed to be followed, not to be rushed. If you're reading too quick, you can't follow it. You can't follow it. You've got to slow it down, so that people can follow, understand what you're praying. Just reading so quick, you're thinking about one thing, and it's just, next thing you know, it's gone off, and so how quick was that? Okay, mistakes. We all make mistakes. Happens. When you get in that musalla, it's a different ball game. You'll get mistakes. Somebody who never gets mistakes, he knows the Quran inside out, but he still might get a mistake. I know people that have read the whole Quran without any mistakes whatsoever. Full Quran without any mistakes. But they've gone to musalla and they get mistakes. It happens. It happens. There's a video once of Aimma Haram going around. Somebody just compiled different clips where Imam of Haram is getting mistakes. I think one of them was like Sheikh Shuraim, and it's Alif Lam Mim. Very first Taraweeh. Alif Lam Mim Tanzilul Kitabi ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. ألف لام ميم تنزيل ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. Alif Lam Mim. About 3 times or 4 times he prayed it wrong, and then he got it right. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. This is Quran is from Allah. Allah is telling us, look, my Quran, if I want to make you pray, you'll pray it. If I don't want to make you pray, you're not going to pray it. It's Allah telling us that it's not you, it's me that's making you pray. Just remember that. We all make mistakes. But if we make mistakes, the main thing is, how do you handle these mistakes? You need to stay calm. Don't get flustered. Don't get anxious. Don't start sweating too much. Calm down, take it easy, and listen carefully to what's being said. Listen carefully to what's being said. Sometimes, the person's at the back, he's taking out your mistake, but like your mistake is, for example, you're praying Hudan lil Alameen or something, and he's saying Hudan lil, so he just says Hudan, so you go Hudan lil Alameen, and it's Hudan lil, it's calm, just listen to what he's saying first. Listen to what he's saying, and then you'll be able to correct the mistake. Because if you don't listen, then you're just going to say the same thing. So just calm down and listen, and then repeat as you need to. If you need to go back again and read the whole ayat again, then that's fine. Go back and read the whole ayat again. Repeat as you need. You don't have to just take it. Okay, listen to the mistake. Okay, this is my mistake, but if I can't just start from there. I don't know. Just let me read the whole thing again, keeping that in mind, and then repeat the whole thing, and then carry on. That's very, very important. How do you take out mistakes? Taking out mistakes is something which you need to know as well. Because, that person's on the musalla, and he's there reading, and he's reading, Hudan lil muttaqi or lil alimi, and he says, Muttaqeen. What you on about? What muttaqeen? Where? Hello, tell him in a way that he understands it and he can pick up what the actual mistake is. If you just say in one word, it's not going to make any. He's already, got the pressure of standing there. Now you just say in one word, and then he's like, he just hears something, or sometimes he mumbles. He's mumbling, because you're not sure yourself, isn't it? That's what it is. You're not sure yourself. Is it? So you say, I told him, man. I told him, but he didn't. The roti bolni da pachi. I told him, but he should have a bit. Say it loudly and clearly. If you think he's got a mistake and you're confident that he got a mistake, say it nice and loudly. Say it loudly, clearly, so he understands. Not only one word, okay? And don't jump in the gun. Don't be too quick. Don't. Sometimes it happens. Okay, you're reading, and for example, walakum nisfu ma taraka. So you say walakum nisfu ma taraka azwajukum. So I say azwajuhunna, and then you realize. So just wait. Give him some time. He'll realize his mistake. Let him go back. If he's carrying on and he's not coming back, then tell him what the mistake. Don't just straight away, jump in and let him take that mistake. Calm down. He sometimes is ruthless. You understand? And we need to be careful. Don't pressure him more. Easy. Let him carry on. If he's not correcting it, then we'll tell him the mistake. It happens sometimes. Reading and I've gone wrong. So you just go back and you read it again. You realize it yourself. But if you don't give him that time, then you're just going to tell him the mistake. Then he's going to think, oh, I got a mistake, and people are going to. Then it just adds that pressure. So just be careful about that. And one person, stipulate one person. He needs to take the mistakes out. If he doesn't take it out, then okay, this person, or then nobody, and will deal with it after. Not that. Okay, whoever takes the mistakes out, takes the mistakes out. So now he's saying something, and now he's saying something at the same time, and there's two people are saying something. No, it's not. Just stipulate one person. He takes the mistakes out, and that is it. Okay, certain mistakes invalidate salat. Does it invalidate salat or not? So this is a very obviously intricate masail in that, and there's many different scenarios. That what type of a mistake is. Are you reading a fatha, kasra, dhamma wrong? Are you adding a word? Are you dropping a word? Are you saying a word which is not even in the Quran, doesn't even exist? By, for example, adding a tashdid on and something like that. So it's very complicated, and it is that, look, it could and it could not, depending on how much of a change it makes. Sometimes it may be there's that little bit of a leeway and a gunjaish, although there may be a severe error in terms of translation. For example, you've got for example, فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. So ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, those whose scales are heavy, then he will be going to Jannah. Okay, and that person whose scales are light, then this person will be going to Jahannam. So فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. But if somebody decides فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ, then this person is going to Jahannam. So what has that done? Completely changed the meaning. But there may be gunjaish there, the fuqaha say that there may be some leeway. Why? Because of the fact that it's a bit of a mutashabihat mistake. So with a mutashabihat mistake, there's a bit of a leeway. It's okay, it's a common error, let us thingy. You understand? So if in doubt, you just gotta ask. Okay? If you're not sure, ask. If there's somebody there to sort it out for you, alhamdulillah. Sometimes you're getting a mistake and you go, that happens. So does not break in namaz. Okay? Will not break in namaz. Things like this, that's different. Okay? So just be careful about that. Okay. Kissing the mic. What does that mean? Kissing the mic. This is coming the way. It's coming the way. Otherwise I would have practically showed you. Let me get up. Chuf chuf, Naila. No chuf chuf here. Let me show you. Let me put this up for a while. Let me show you. Okay, kissing the mic. This is kissing the mic. Yeah, I'm going to kiss the mic. Watch me. Okay, so you do it standing like this. Okay, with the mic right here. And again, Allahu Akbar. Okay, so you're now really close to the mic. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, now if I'm to go into ruku here, what's going to happen? Huh? I'm going to bash the mic. So what do? Allah. There's no need for that. There's no need for that. Look, it sounds good. But as I said, it's not all about that. It's about doing it properly. So stand where you need to stand, in the middle of the musalla. Okay? And stand, okay, if you need to put the mic close, put the mic close. But stand in a way that the mic will not get into your way of your ruku. So you can go into ruku. If you're standing like this, and then going like this, then it's wrong. It's not right. This is not how your salah needs to be with khushu'. Where's your khushu' gone? If you very conscious of the mic and where it is and moving like this, etc. So it's very, very important that we are standing in a position. So it mainly happens obviously when you've got a night mic system, good masjid, etc. So we need to be careful. Obviously, if you don't have a mic or reading in a masjid, madrasa or whatever, or then all these things won't apply there. But nevertheless, okay. Second point is reciting the basmalah. Basmalah yani Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is very, very important. According to many ulama, Bismillah is part of the surah. Bismillah is part of the surah. According to Hanafiya, it's not part of the surah. Okay, but according to many other ulama, Bismillah is part of the surah, which means that according to them, if you don't recite Bismillah before you start the surah, then that surah is incomplete. If that surah is incomplete, according to them, you've not read the whole Quran. So whenever you're reading Taraweeh and you're starting a surah, then at the beginning of the surah, remember you need to recite Bismillah. According to Hanafiya, it's not, but Hanafiya state, because according to some ulama it is, therefore they say recite it quietly in every single surah, but once you recite it loudly. So everybody gets happy that yeah, they're reciting it, and yes. You understand? So the fine balance there from the Hanafiya. But it's very important that we recite the Bismillah, okay, before we start every surah. Final point is ruku and sujood, carefully, calmly, don't be too quick. You got to remember there's some old people behind you. If you're going up, coming back up quickly, if you don't do ta'deel and you don't go into ruku properly, recite Subhan Rabbi al-Azim and Subhan Rabbi al-Ala properly, then your ruku and your sujood won't even be accepted. So it's very important that we do our ruku and our sujood properly. Okay. Weak Quran. If our Quran is weak, then what do? Shall we do Taraweeh? Yes, we have to, because otherwise we're not going to learn it. Taraweeh is a opportunity for us to learn our Quran. But do we complete the Quran or not? That is the question. So, completing the Quran in Taraweeh is sunnah. To know and to retain the Quran which we've learned is unnecessary. So, in this situation, when the Taraweeh time comes and your Quran is weak and it's not strong, and you're not in a position, for example, there's a group of you, your Quran is kacha, and you think, you know what, let's do Taraweeh together. At least with that we'll learn it, and we'll do our Quran kata, and then we get to about 20 paras and people start backing off and say, look, I can't do 20th, you do it. I can't do 21st, you do it. Or I can only do 2 rakats here, I can't do. So in that situation, what you do is set a plan for yourselves and work on the paras slowly. So I remember I told a group of this from our area last time, and what they've done is over the last 5-6 years, they've slowly built themselves. So in the first year they did that, I think the 5 paras or 10 paras, which they knew, so they said that's fine. And what they did is a full month, they just went over those 10. So doing a para a day, so they did 3 khatams of those 10 juz. And swapping around in the next khatam, they swapped it around, and the next khatam after that, they swapped it around. So they've got in the additional recitation. So with that, they could get that 10 juz pakka. Okay, next year then, those 10 are now solid. So then they added another 5, for example. And then they're only doing 15 juz, but for the whole month. So, and they're reciting those 15 juz for the whole month, 1 1/4 or 1 para, whatever it may be, and getting those pakkas, swapping it around. And then following year, add another 5 juz. And in this way, slowly build yourself so that you do the full Quran, and in a position that, alhamdulillah, through the Taraweeh and the barakah of the Taraweeh, I was able to retain my door properly again and make it pakka. Okay, so we should have that zeal and jazbah to read Taraweeh, but use it properly to make our Quran strong. Finally now, Taraweeh is done. Any questions? Okay, finally. Third thing, responsibility. Okay, and we'll inshallah finish on this point. Responsibility, there's 2 things. Spiritual duty, and number 2, conduct and appearance. Spiritual duty. Can I tell you what this is? G? What's this? Come on, we all know. Madinah Munawwara. But why this specifically? Riyadul Jannah. That's not what I want. It is Riyadul Jannah. But no, I don't want Riyadul Jannah. I want you to highlight something else. What can you see in Riyadul Jannah? Here. Huh? Mihrab and Mimbar. Mihrab and Mimbar. Who's Mihrab? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's Mihrab. This Mihrab is from that Mihrab. When you're standing here, then it's come from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time. This is a wirasa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we need to understand that with this great privilege and with a great position comes a great responsibility and a burden. You're holding this big rock on your back. You're carrying the congregation. It's your duty. It's you that's carrying everybody else's salat. And people are seeing you as the imam now. They're seeing you as the imam, and they're seeing he's getting on that musalla. So now they're seeing you as a person who's different from them, and they're seeing you with respect. So you need to act with that. You need to act accordingly. You need to fulfill that role model of you become a role model in the eyes of certain youngsters and certain little kids. So you need to be a role model. You need to act like a role model. And you need to remember again that why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? For Allah. And I will be questioned by Allah. There's accountability there. So it's not just a matter of doing that Taraweeh and getting all the praise and all the pats on the back and everybody giving you good words and commending you and high. No. It's more than that. It's a big duty. It's a big duty, and you need to understand this. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam states that Ahlul Quran hum Ahlullahi wa khassatuh. That the people of the Quran, they are the close ones of Allah. They're special servants. Allah has given you this honor, and therefore you need to understand this duty of yours. It's not just a matter of coming there to go in the Taraweeh and then that's it, yeah, whatever, I can do what I want. No. You need to understand that you are leading the congregation. Do we recite Quran behind the Imam? You don't. Why? Because the Imam is reading it. He's speaking on behalf of us to Allah. So that's going to be you. You're speaking on behalf of everybody behind you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you've got a big responsibility and a big duty, and you need to understand this. You need to understand this. The very first Imam was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's carried on from there. And you've got this opportunity, so you need to fulfill that role. Therefore, conduct and appearance. You need to have that tawadu. You need to have that humbleness. You need to have that humility. Not think, oh yeah, I'm standing on that musalla. Who are you to tell me anything? I'm standing on that musalla. You need to respect me. No, be humble. Be humble. Allah has put you there. Allah is giving you this honor. So understand that it's not you. It's Allah that has put you there and given you this honor. And accordingly behave. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a walking, talking Quran. Kana khuluquhu al-Quran. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life was an embodiment of the Quran. And We need to behave in this manner. We can't now do things that other people do. We can't act in a way that other people act. We need to be distinct from them. We need to be seen that the people are seeing us as an imam, and then we're walking down the streets at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, around town, and it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. We need to understand there's certain things now that we can't do because people are seeing us differently. Okay? Similarly, beard and hair. Beard and hair, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this, so we can't be standing on that musalla and we got our hair cut in a particular manner, or we are cutting our beard, etc. We can't do this. No, we need to present ourselves accordingly. It's haram to cut our beard, and again it's haram and to have our hair in an appropriate manner. So these things are sins. These are not just some little things that we can do. No, we need to be very, very careful. And here we have a usul, and we've got principles that look, if anybody's cutting their hair, then we don't allow them on the musalla. And not just that his hair needs to be like this for Taraweeh. No, we've got a ruling that over the last year, he shouldn't have cut their hair in that particular manner, or been cutting his beard in that particular manner. So it's not just a matter of on that day, okay, at Taraweeh time, his hair is fine, no issue. No, it's not just that moment. As I said, it's that whole duty that you need to present yourself in that particular manner. Clothing as well, you need to be seen. Okay, Hifz, you need to dress like a Hifz. You need to behave like a Hifz. People would, in the olden days, people would see and look at an individual and say that this is a Hifz, this is a non-Hifz. Nowadays, you can't differentiate between a Hifz and a non-Hifz. People say that Hifz, you get shocked. This person is not Hifz. So you need to be seen in a way that people can clearly distinguish. This person has been blessed with the Quran. And finally, and we finish on this, inshallah, that bringing the sunnahs, bring our life in according to the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we've learned the Quran in terms of words, but we need to excel a little bit more. Learn what we're reading, understand what we're reading. We're reading the Quran, alhamdulillah, many of us are very good huffaz and we're able to read 20 rakats on our own, no problem. But Allah has blessed us with the Quran. What are we reading? Let us try to understand that as well. And then we'll be able to see how much enjoyment we have within our Taraweeh and within our recitation when we're reading the Quran and we're understanding, subhanAllah, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying here, and the way He's describing this particular thing. Then we'll be able to enjoy it and appreciate it more. And finally is taqwa. We need that awareness, that consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that realization that, look, I have a duty and I have a responsibility and my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And upon that, I inshallah conclude. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله تعالى خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاك الله خيرا to everybody for attending. If you've got any questions, fire away. If not, then we can conclude on the dua. Any questions? Anybody? Yep. I think they will not get the reward of the Isha will be done, obviously, but in terms of the reward of congregation, you won't be done. Otherwise, everybody pray every namaz at home. Do you understand? So if a person prays his Zuhr Salat at home and doesn't come here, then if he says, I'm doing with Jama'ah, then that means he's not getting, nobody will come here. What's the point of coming here then? You understand? So everybody will end up doing that for every namaz, in the sense that if you are getting the reward. But we all come to the masjid. Why? Because we know that the reward is here. So we don't do that for other namazis. So the same rule applies for Isha and Taraweeh as well. That we shouldn't do it because we won't get the reward of Salah with Jama'ah. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So you do one salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Look, and thereafter just going to sleep. That's fine. Any other questions? talking about Hanafi fiqh, so it's okay. We're not here in Makkah, we're doing Taraweeh here. People say, look what, we don't have an open Q&A, we're having this specific for this now. Inshallah. Yeah, that's different, inshallah. I'll speak to you after if you want to. But I want to keep you a bit focused. Other people start asking other questions as well. Let's keep it focused to this. Anything regarding Taraweeh or anything regarding Witr Salat, if you are really Witr Salat, Sajdatul Sahwa in regards to that. So what happens sometimes in our third rakat, we don't do our kunut and we go into ruku. So in terms of that, if you go into ruku, stay in ruku. If we go into ruku, stay in ruku, and thereafter do Sajdatul Sahwa at the end. I actually forgot another one. Was it not the slide? Didn't come up, did it? Sajda Tilawat. There was no slide. They deleted. I had a whole slide on Sajda Tilawat. Sajda Tilawat. Sajda Tilawat. If you forget to do your Sajda Tilawat, I think I must have deleted the slide, I don't know. If you forget to do your Sajda Tilawat, okay, if you remember within 3 ayats, if you remember within 3 ayats, do your sajda and no sajda to sahwa at the end. Okay. If you remember after 3 ayats, so whether it's in while she's still in qira'ah, or whether you've gone into ruku and then you remember, whatever. If you remember after 3 ayats, do the sajda. Do the sajda then, and thereafter do sajda to sahwa at the end. And the third scenario is that if you forget to do it altogether, you've not remembered at all in salah, and you finish your salat, and you then started talking and they said, you didn't even do your sajda, then there's nothing you can do. Your salat is valid. You make tawbah istighfar because you missed out, but you don't need to do. You don't even do it after on its own. It's gone. So there was a slide, but I think I deleted it by mistake. Inshallah. Any other questions? Hanu? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Just stick to 3 ayats. And if you pray 3 rakats, and you did not sit in the second rakat, then, so if you stood up for your third, and then you remember before you go into sujood of that third additional rakat after the second which you didn't sit down on, then go straight down and thereafter sit down, pray at tahiyyat, do sajda sahwa, and your namaz is done. If you remember after that, and you in your third rakat, you sat down, then you remember, then the whole namaz is invalid because you didn't sit in your qaida akhira, which was your second rakat. You stand up at the fourth rakat if you want to, and then do sajda sahwa at the end, but your namaz in terms of Taraweeh will not be done. Because Taraweeh is in 2 rakats. Any other question? All done? Finished? Jazakallah khair. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. I do hope it was beneficial and informative. If you have any suggestions, any other things, then please let me know, inshallah. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.